really brought you and the company, in the lights of partners that they really wanted to get behind?
Right. I think, for us, it's all sort of relationships. And I don't mean like relationships in the sense that like, you're Donald Trump's cousin, right? And Donald Trump says, hey, like, you need to invest in like, my cousin.
Sure.
Right. I come from a middle-class family, so unfortunately my family sort of didn't have that network to do any of this. All of this was sort of me building my network through the years. But for us, we hadn't actually built the Cheers brand yet. We just sort of had Thrive Plus, which was sort of a very cursory exercise at branding, right? Mm-hmm. Wasn't very deep, the values weren't there, the mission and vision wasn't really spelt out. And a lot of this kind of came down to having multi-hour conversations with the proper investors saying, here's what we think our vision is. Obviously, this is subject to change, but here's what it will never be, and here's what we think it will probably be, right? And a lot of this was basically getting investors comfortable with, no, Brooks is a very smart, very ethical guy, and he's painted a clear picture of the future, even though they don't know exactly how the brand is going to land, in sort of a box. So now we have that box there, but what we were pitching sort of investors is like, look, we'll figure that piece out and we promise we won't embarrass you. And so we finally got some, obviously I'm biased here, but we finally got some really smart investors to take us up on that offer, and hopefully we get to reward them generously.
So you've worked with Princeton, a traditionally conservative institution.
Yep.
How was overcoming some of those challenges?
Yeah, so if you think investors are bad, capital P, Princeton, like as the whole organization, is extremely reputation risk adverse.
Okay.
Right? Just very sort of, they would much rather bet on things that are safer than things that could make the university look bad. So when they're sort of looking into, so basically working with Princeton, there was two reasons we really wanted to work with Princeton. The first is that Princeton has all these sort of entrepreneurial programs, such as like their eLab Summer Accelerator program, where they basically give you 20 grand, free housing, mentors, and just basically like a pretty kick-ass accelerator for 10 weeks, right? So this is a huge amount of value,
awesome.
Right, for you and your whole team. But you got to, convince people like, hey, we're not going to embarrass you, right? So when they're looking at a lot of different companies, like a robot that can try to cook your meals, which would probably cost so much that it's not commercially viable, versus something that at immediate glance where the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, this is just a hangover cure.
Yep.
That could support binge drinking, right? All of a sudden they're looking at that going like, the robot chef is starting to look a bit safer. And so the way we sort of managed, have you ever eaten an elephant?
I have not.
Okay, do you know how to?
I do not.
So it's one bite at a time. I've never eaten one either, but it's a good metaphor. And so what we basically did is we go, okay, here's this whole Princeton organization. Here's the stakeholders that actually matter. Here's the decision makers that I would actually control our fate within the university, right? And why don't we make relationships with, and not use them, but make bona fide, genuine relationships with each person and explain what our company is, what it does, and what we're going to become, right? And so, sure, if someone's like, oh, well, give me your pitch in 90 seconds, we can do it, and it's not great. But if you give me just a 25-minute lunch, you're going to come out of that lunch going like, yeah, sorry, Robo Chef, like we're bringing this company in because they're going somewhere. And so for us, it was a lot of, you got to sit down with people and sort of explain the vision and where it's going. And you find people that are sort of willing to go to bat for you.
So you build relationships at the university, delivering authenticity, trust, becoming, showing your genuine intent. How long did it take you before you realized you were actually building momentum and gaining advocates within the institution? Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little hard, right? Because you go, is it time or touch points, right? And so I think the way to think of it is, it took us about a year before, people realize, oh my gosh, like these people are legit. they're smart, they're ethical, and this business is going to do well. And so far we've done better, to my knowledge, than any other sort of cohort that's come through Princeton.
Wow.
Now there's other Princeton alum that are obviously far more successful than we are, such as Jeff Bezos. But for us, it took a lot of touch points, right? And so there's a bunch of key stakeholders sort of in the entrepreneurial circle at Princeton that, it came, attending events. A lot of these events were sort of happy hours and so forth, and basically, telling your story and saying, hey, here's who I am, here's my backstory, here's what we're about, here's what we're doing, and here's where we think it can go. Do you think there's any way that you guys would be able to help us with your resources at Princeton? And over time, people get to know you and go, look, I really like these people, I like their mission and vision, and I want to try to support them, in any way I can. And as long as they're objectively a good fit for the program, a better fit than sort of any other company or whatnot, I'm going to give these kids a chance. And so, we got to the point where people trusted in us enough to not embarrass them and give us a chance. And, we're really grateful for that.